Hi everybody, it's Liam here, and in this video I'm going to walk you through getting started with product fit, and then we're going to explore the product a bit more and see what it looks like with some real responses and some data analyzed so we can see how it measures product market fit. So when you first sign up to product fit, you'll be taken to this welcome screen, which then goes on to a quick onboarding wizard. Now, product fit uses the product market fit survey method to measure product market fit. And so you'll see at the bottom of the screen, you have a preview of what the survey looks like. So you can get a feel for how the survey is before you actually get into the product. So we'll click on Let's Go, and we're taken to the first step, which is to add your product, which will be your SaaS application. So you'll just need to enter your name and the URL of the application. We'll click Next. And now we're taken to the market question step. Now, as I mentioned before, we're using the product market fit survey method to measure product market fit. And as part of that, you need to define who your target market is and who isn't in your target market. And a really good way to do that is by using what we call personas. And you can identify your personas in whichever way you want. And it's this question that we use to gather the persona from the user. Now, you'll see that there are a few questions that have been defined here that you can choose from, and you can also click on other to define your own question. So for example, if you're a B2B SaaS application, and let's say you're a workflow tool like an email client, you might identify your user personas based on job title. So this is a really common question that people use to identify the personas from their users, but of course that may not apply to you. So you could use other things like the role of the user. That could be their role at their job, but also their role within your application. And also you could use the industry that the business is in. It really just depends on what your product is and the market that you're in. Now, once you've defined your question, you'll see below here, it says, how do you want users to answer this question? And you have two options. One is as an open-ended question, and you would more likely use this option if you aren't sure what the personas are that your users fit into when you get started. And then the second option is with predefined options. And so predefined options would be used if you do know what the personas are. And so you would be able to add each persona as an option to this question. There are definitely advantages and disadvantages with each. Obviously, if you have an open-ended question, you're more likely to get a genuine answer from the user. They're not just going to click an option, but it means that you have more work later on because you will need to classify those answers into the different personas to teach product fit which answers apply to which persona. Whereas if you use the predefined options, each option is a persona, and so you won't have to do any additional work moving forward. So to get started, we'll just choose the job title question, and we'll make it open-ended to see how it works. So next we're on the targeting step, and this is where we're going to define the conditions that specify which users the survey is going to show for. Now, with the product market fit method, it's really important that you only survey users who have experienced the core value of your product. So yeah, that's obviously going to be different depending on which depending on what your product is and what the core value is. So for now, just as an example, we'll do something generic like the number of sessions. Let's say it's greater than 2, and they've signed up in the last couple of weeks. And we'll see what other options we have. So we can define conditions based on the current session, based on any user attributes, based on any attributes from their account, like the company or whatever it might be, and all based on their subscription. So let's click session and device type. So I only want to survey them if they're on desktop. And so you'll see the condition is just added to this rule, and if I want I can add more rules with different conditions. So let's click next. And the final step in the onboarding wizard is installing the JavaScript snippet. Now, in order to do this, you'll need a developer, and when you install the snippet, it's important that you set this user ID field, because this is what is used to identify the user, and so you'll need a developer to set this up. And if that's not you, no worries, you can click on this link here and add your developer's email, and it will send them an email with an invite to join your account, and we'll give them the instructions to install. So let's click done. We don't have to do it just yet, and we'll take a look at the rest of the product. Now that we've onboarded, I'm going to show you what the product market fit survey looks like. So here I have a blank page that I've installed the JavaScript snippet on, and you'll see the survey has popped up at the bottom. Now the first question that is asked in the survey is the product market fit question, and what we look for here is the number of users in your target market who answer very disappointed to the question, which is, how would you feel if you could no longer use the product? The next question is the market question, which we set up during the onboarding, and this is identifying the persona of the user. And the third question is the benefits question. So here we're trying to identify the main benefits to our product that our users see. So we'll type something in here like and the final question is the improvements question, and so here we're looking to identify the main improvements that our users see in our product. So we'll say and that's it. Now let's head back into product fit and take a look at how we identify personas from the surveys that we have received so far. So I'm going to navigate to market and identify personas. So here you'll see there are 3 columns, and on the left we have the answers to the market question that haven't been classified yet, and then we have 2 columns for the target market and not target market. And so in these columns we're going to create those personas and then sort the answers into them. So I'm going to create a persona under target market called founders, and then we'll drag in the answers into that persona. Now, once you've done this a few times for your different personas, Product Fit will automatically learn which answers go in which persona, and if it can find a match, it'll automatically classify them for you. But whenever you receive new answers, they'll appear in the not classified column until you classify them. Alright, so I'm now logged in to Product Fit with an account that has some data from a Superhuman Product Market Fit survey. So we can take a look at what Product Fit looks like when it has enough responses to analyze the product market fit score. So on the insights page here, you'll see the product market fit score here, which is 33%, and the total number of responses that have been received so far. And then we have a timeline for the product market fit score, and the timeline by default is broken down by the target market and all users. And so you'll notice the target market score is higher because, of course, it's refined down to the users that the SaaS application is targeting. Now, with this product market fit score chart, we can also break it down by any of the segments that have been created in the account. And so you'll see we have the two segment groups for the target market and not target market personas. So if I select some of those, it's going to load up and we'll see what those segments look like on the chart alongside the other all users and target market segments. Just take a little while to load because we've loaded up multiple years of surveys here. So here you'll see, it looks a little bit messy, but we have the manager and founder persona scores alongside all the other scores there. So the manager scores start out quite high and then it all kind of converges in the end there at 33%. Now, just a reminder, the product market fit score is measured by those users in your target market who answer that they would be very disappointed if they could no longer use your product. So that's how we calculate the score and display it over time. Scrolling down, we can see here we have the primary benefits that have been identified in this word cloud. Now these have been identified from the users who love your product or have answered very disappointed and who are also in your target market. And again, like the chart above, we can break it down by any of the other segments that we have in the account, in the product. Now, as we look at this word cloud here, we can also see a breakdown or the score for each segment that we've selected. So if we choose a couple more, we'll be able to see what those are in this list here. And if you would like, you can also open the individual responses for any of those segments that have an occurrence of that phrase. In this case, it's the benefit. So if we look over here, we can see all the responses that are in the target market that have answered in their benefits question with the keyword speed. So that's the primary benefits, and then we also have the improvements to focus on. And so the improvements are identified by those users who somewhat like the product, or in other words, they answered that they would be somewhat disappointed if they could no longer use the product, and who are also in the target market. So the idea here is if you focus on these improvements, you are more likely to convert those users who only somewhat like your product to users who love your product. And the same thing with these, with these improvements, you can view the individual responses for them. So let's head over to the individual responses and have a look at, see what it looks like. So on the responses page, you'll see they're all listed on the left here. And then in the middle, we have the answers to the survey. And for the benefits and improvements questions, you can see that the keywords are identified as well, and there's also a breakdown by segment. Now, just like with everything else, we can also filter what we're seeing here. So with the responses, you can filter any of the segments. You can also filter by benefits and improvements, and by the response date, as well as just searching any search term. And lastly, you can see on the right side here, we have the user pane, where you can see any of the segments that the user is in, as well as any other attributes that are known about that user or the account that they're in. So you'll see for this user, they're not in the target market. They somewhat like the product, so they're in the somewhat likes segment, and then they're also in a persona, which is sales. So any segments that you create will appear alongside the user on the response page. So you'll see we can easily browse through the different responses on the left here and see what they are. That's all for now. Thank you for watching this getting started video. For more in-depth help, head over to our website, and you can also reach out to us anytime via the chat function on Product Fit.